Well, good morning, everybody. This is Charlie LeMay, and I'm here with my friend Gary, and we're the presenters this morning, and we're here to talk to you about a subject that we both love, and that is negative ions. Linda started a couple of weeks ago. She did an expose on magnets. And then a few weeks later, she was talking about far infrared. So since most of our products have a tri-phase technology to them, this morning I'll be talking about tri-phase. So I have a little bit of information that I will share with you. Then we want to talk about what tri-phase does. And then we want to talk about a few of the products that we have. So let me first start sharing my screen here, and then we will take it from there. I will let you read along with me since I am not that good of a reader, so I'll get you to read along with me so that we can see what we're doing. So what we're talking about today are negative ions. So there's something in the air, and while it may not be loved, some say it's next best thing, negative ions. Believe me, they help me a lot, especially on our daily basis. Coming from the north, negative ions is part of the thing that helps you with your SAD. Negative ions are odorless, tasteless, and invisible molecules that we inhale in abundance in certain environments. Think mountains, waterfall, and beaches. Once they reach our bloodstream, negative ions are believed to produce biochemical reactions that increase levels of mood, chemical serotonin, helping to alleviate depression, relieving stress, and boost our daily energy. That's why in the morning, what we love to do is getting in the shower, because the shower gives us the negative ions. Anyways, we'll talk about that a little bit further on. Ions are molecules that have gained or lost an electrical charge. They are created in nature as air molecules breaking apart due to sunlight, radiation, moving air, and water. You may have experienced the power of negative ions when you last set foot on the beach or walked beneath a waterfall. While part of our euphoria is simply being around those wondrous settings and away from the normal pressure of home and work, the air circulating in the mountains and the beach is said to contain tens of thousands of negative ions, more than the average home or office building would contain dozens of hundreds of, many registered as a flat zero. There's an interesting article that's coming up here, and I never realized that. The action of pounding surf creates negative ions, and we also see it immediately after spring thunderstorms when people report lightning moods, says ion researcher Michael Turman, PhD. In fact, Columbia University studies people with winter and chronic depression show that negative ion generators relieve depression as much as antidepressants. How interesting. The best part is that there are relatively no side effects, and we still need to figure out appropriate doses and which people it works on, he says. Vitamins in the air. Generally speaking, negative ions increase the flow of oxygen to the brain, resulting in a higher alertness, decreased drowsiness, and a more mental energy, says Dr. Howard, author of the Owner's Manual for the Brain, Everyday Applications for the Mind, and so on forth. He's a director of research at Applied in Charlotte. They also may protect us against germs in the air, resulting in decreased irritation due to inhaling various particles that make you sneeze, cough, and have sore throat. And for a whooping cough, one of the three of us who are sensitive to these effects, negative ions can make us feel like we are walking on air. You are one of You are one of them if you feel instantly refreshed the amount you open a window and breathe in fresh air. You may be one of them if you feel sleepy when you are around air conditioners, but feel immediately refreshed and invigorated when you step outside the car window. Howard tells us, and this is important, I didn't realize that, air conditioning depletes the atmosphere of negative ions, but an ion generator re-releases the ions that air conditioner removes. Air conditioners actually, and that's why a lot of people dislike air conditioners, because they alter your moods. They reduce the negative ions in the air. So what are what type of people or things generate negative ions? In fact, every home has a built-in natural ionizer, the shower. Room air circulation, heat and humidity, the proximity of grounded devices that may emit counteracting positive ions, such as a computer monitor, may affect output levels of negative ion generators, he explains. We have tried to minimize the influence of these factors by adding grounded wrist straps or grounded bed sheets for connection to the ionizer system. Those are the things that they say is to come, but we have them right now. We just have to tell more people about them. I would advise anybody who experiences clinically significant depression to try negative ion therapy. What about allergies and asthma? The professor of medicine was so excited when he first heard of negative ion generators 20 years ago that he went out and bought one to study among allergies and asthma patients. Imagine that. Negative ions for the brain. The atmosphere we breathe is full of positive and negative ions. Air conditioning, lack of ventilation, and long dry spells remove negative ions, which usually serve to latch onto airborne dirt particles and wrestle them to the floor, rendering the air purer. Roughly 1/3 of the population seems to be particularly sensitive to negative ion depletion, hence SAD. The portion of negative ions is highest among moving water, storms, ocean, rivers, waterfalls. It's no wonder that we feel so energized at the beach. The best ratios of negative ion to positive ions are associated with waterfalls at the time before, during, and after a storm. The worst are found in windowless rooms and closed moving vehicles. Air purifiers typically work by emitting negative ions, which purify room air by attracting to the impurities and sinking them. High concentration of negative ions are essential for high energy and positive mood. Negative ions suppress serotonin levels in much the same way that natural sunlight depresses melatonin. Hence, the invigorating effect of fresh air and sunshine and corresponding depressed feelings associated with being closed in and dark. If you deplete the air negative ions, you experience an increase in serotonin, and it's attendant drowsiness and relaxes. Now, what you want when mentally agitated is amended. So these are some of the things that we talked about. And I've got applications here of a lot of different things. Don't live or work in fresh air unless air conditioning system contains an ion generator, or buy a Nikken air purifier. Purchase a room ion generator to keep the room in which you spend most of the time, and run it when you're not getting inside air. Take frequent breaks of fresh air when you can't, or open the windows. So, and I have some more information, but I'm going to let Gary talk about a few aspects, because in our products, we talk about tri-phase, and there's a lot of our products that have these tri-phase. And I'm going to let Gary talk about one particular thing that he was talking about here. And let me get some So you can take it away, Gary, and do your little thing.
Okay, Charlie, thanks. And thanks for inviting me to join you on this. First of all, I just want to issue a disclaimer that we're not making any medical claims here. And the information I'm sharing is mostly gained from the web, so help yourself to that. But again, we're not making any medical claims. So the first part I want to talk about is that, again, most of the products that we have within Nikken have the tri-phase technology. And so the first is the magnetic, the second is the far infrared, and the third is the negative ion. And the effects of the negative ions, as Charlie has mentioned, is that it's a soothing and a relaxing sensation. It's like, I live in Maine, so this morning I went for a walk along the ocean. So you get that sense of lightness and just a really good feeling. The other thing is, growing up in the Midwest, my favorite thing was after like a thunder lightning storm, you step outside and the air is just so light and so fresh. Well, that's negative ions. And I want to clarify something, that when I first heard the concept of negative ions, what we're really talking about are negatively charged ions. So the negatively charged ions are what's good for us. It's the positively charged ions that are bad for us. So if you're in traffic, if I'm driving to Boston, there's lots of positively charged ions in the air, and that tends to bring people down. It has a bad effect on you. Whereas the negatively charged ions can be uplifting. And in our technology, of course, our mag steps, our insoles, the power bands, they have the tri-phase, all three products. One of our more recent products, and this is what Charlie is pointing to right now, is that our cocoon, if you look at the fine print there, and this is available online for you folks on the Nikken website, but it clearly shows that there's 100% tourmaline infused particles. And I want to talk a little bit about tourmaline. So when I was first introduced to the sleep system, I was learning that the comforter that we have has, it releases negative ions. So I was curious about what that meant. And then in doing a little bit of research, I found out the negative ions are created by, come from the semi-precious gem called tourmaline. Well, I wanted to look into that a little bit further. So just to talk about tourmaline a little bit, tourmaline is a semi-precious gem. It's found here naturally in the state of Maine. It was first discovered here something like in the 1820s. But it is located all over the world. But in particular, Maine has a certain deposit of tourmaline. And I was visiting with my friend who lives in the mountains of Bethel, Maine, like close to the Sunday River ski resort area. And he then went on to tell me that tourmaline is something that is found naturally, and he in fact mines it. So he's a gemologist, and he goes out and mines it. So just a little bit more information about tourmaline. It comes in many different colors. It comes from red, pink, purple, yellow, green, blue, brown. But the most powerful of the tourmalines is the black tourmaline. And I'm holding a small piece of it. I'm going to put it up. See, tell me, Charlie, if you can see this. I'm holding it up with my fingertips. It looks like a chunk of coal, if you will. It's crystallized, and I'm holding this little chunk about the size of the pinky. And what's amazing about this is what is used. It's crushed, and then it's somehow infused into the fibers. So as I'm talking with my friend, he tells me, and I love these sort of third-party, where something is validated. He tells me that he fulfills orders for the U.S. Department of Defense. I said, what are you talking about? Well, he's telling me that the tourmaline is mined, a certain quality of it is mined, and it's sold then to the Department of Defense, and they put it into the submarines. And why did they do that? Because the sailors are in this unnatural environment of being under the water for hours, days, weeks, months at a time. And to help create a more natural environment, they put tourmaline into the submarines to help with that, creating that effect, that healthful effect. So one thing else about tourmaline, it's a birthstone for the month of October. One of the popular ones is a tourmaline that looks like watermelon. So if you take a slice of watermelon, the watermelon has a green shell and a red interior. There's tourmaline that looks like that. It may not be perfectly round, but it's got a green exterior and a red interior. It's very popular. A couple more things about the tourmaline, and that is the effects of it. I think that as we live in this environment, if you can go to that second slide, yes, thanks Charlie. Here we're showing our power band. So I'm wearing a power band. It's of course on my wrist. It also comes in the form of a necklace where it contains tourmaline, and what that does is it releases the negatively charged ions into the environment, into the body, and the body absorbs that, and it just helps in many ways in terms of its health effects, having a good feeling. Charlie talked about the what the properties do for us. A couple of other things I want to mention, that anybody these days who has an iPhone, I think it's all the more reason to counteract the negative effects of carrying around a cell phone, or in particular, like guys that are wearing a cell phone on their belt. That's all the more reason to have something like the Flex, just to counteract the negative effects of the electronics or the pollution caused by the cell phone. So that's all the more reason to be wearing something like this Flex, which has the tri-phase technology, the magnetic, the far infrared, and the negative ion. So it's a great combination, and leave it to Nikken to be ahead of the game in all of this. And as Charlie was mentioning, we've had several hot days here in Maine. Lots of people have what I would call air conditioners that are in the windows of their homes. That's all the more reason, if one has one of those running, that means there's excessive amounts of positively charged ions that are being released into the room. Those ions are bad for you. So to counter that, our Nikken air system is great because it releases negatively charged ions, good ones, and it's all the more reason to be wearing these technologies and have them on your body, from the wraps to the insoles to the back flex, and then at night with the sleep system having the good effects of the negative ions. So back to you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a little bit more information to share with you about what the negative ions does, etc. And we'll just go through some of this information. Some of it is interesting, and some of it you can just Google it yourself on and get some information. Just Google negative ions, and it tells you so much about it. So we're going to talk about our air system in a minute, but just let me go through this. I just have about another page and a half to go. Negative ion generator are curious little devices. The manufacturer's claims are inevitably followed by claiming marks. Is your air healthy? Asked one ad. Refresh mount quality of indoor. Negative ions, says manufacturers, make you feel alive, revitalize, and alert while releasing depression, headaches, and allergies. Trillions of these incredible ions somehow are supposed to kill bacteria and make plants grow better. But do such claims have scientific basis? Possibly. Firstly, it is true that the number of small ions in the air, electrically charged molecules and atoms that are highly mobile, varies widely. Clean outdoor air may have 1,000 positive and 1,000 negative ions in each cubic centimeter, while polluted air probably has fewer. An air conditioner office may have only 100. So the importance of having the negative ions in your home and wearing them on your body is shown just by that statement. Commercially, ion generators are indeed change indoor ion levels drastically. When a high negative ion voltage is sent in the needle point, it generates both positive and negative ions. The negative ions are repelled by the negative needle, like electric charges repel, and blown into the room by a fan. The physics of ion measurements are almost certainly more complex than manufacturers and some experienced recognize. However, the effect of ion generators may bring to a room to even higher negative ion levels than typically found outdoors. So it's important to do that inside, because not only do you get the negative effects, and as Gary mentioned, the positive ions that are generated all around us, but we can have it even higher indoors where we spend most of our time. The question is whether increasing the number of negative ions make people feel more comfortable and work more efficiently. The answer is especially important in regard to the video screens that displays words and numbers at computer terminals. These screens, which many users say cause fatigue and headaches, usually has positively charged strong enough to wipe out nearby negative ions, what Gary was talking about. Hawkins from the Human Biology and Human Department of University Surrey in England has performed 2 sets of experiments to find out how negative ions affect people. In the first set, Hawkins maintained that high levels of negative ions in a room part of the time, but maintained predominantly positive ions in the room the rest of the time. The people in the room, unaware that the ions were being manipulated, performed standard tasks. So you can see, that a lot of people are looking at the effects of negative ions. So in the first test, the subjects did 25% better at the task. In the second test, Hawkins installed 2 commercial ion generators in computer office. The fans of these generators could be switched on separately from the ionizer. And with the fans always running, nobody in the office, whether the ionizer was working. According to Hawkins' measurements with the ionizer, the office had 3,500 negative and 100 positive ions in centimeter in the air, which is offset by about 500 negative ions to 500 positive ions. So you can see the effect of that will have on you. Let me just go to the next slide here. The negative ion benefits for your health. Negative ions are oxygen atoms charged with an extra electron. They are created in nature by the effects of air, water, sunlight, earth, or in our particular case, our Nikken products. Negatively charged ions are most prevalent in natural places, in particular around moving water. Well, we know all of that. What if there were a way to make that feeling you have with you and keep it with you on your bedroom, lounge, kitchen, office, as well as cleaning the air contaminants? So you can see that a lot of people have done a lot of research and work on that. What do actually negative ions do? In high enough concentration, negative ions clean the air of mold, spores, pollen, pet dander, odors, etc., dust, and other hazardous airborne particles. They do this by attaching to these positively charged particles in large number. This causes the germs, mold, pollen, and other allergens to become too heavy to stay airborne. At this point, they drop to the floor to attach to nearby surface. This removes them from the air you breathe and prevents them from causing respiratory problems and other health. I wanted to point this out because the negative ions not only are mood enhancers, but they actually clean the air. So they have a dual purpose. Himalayan salt lands can also clean the air in a different way. Okay? So I wanted to talk about that. There's another point here that I wanted to mention. 10 negative ion benefits for your health. So what does ion therapy do for you in terms of health and well-being? There are heightened links to references if you'd like to read the relevant site research, but a handy summary here are the 10 top health benefits of negative ions. Negative ions increase your sense of well-being and mental clarity by removing the debilitating effects of excess positive ions in your environment. They are often described as natural antidepressants. Negative ions are proven to clear the air of dust, pollen, pet dander, mold, spores, and other potential. A good negative ion generator can significantly decrease airborne viruses and bacteria in your home, improve the function of the cilia in your respiratory tract that protects your lungs from irritation and inflation, thus leading to less instances of respiratory illness like colds and flu and even hay fever and asthma. Negative ions have a relaxing effect and have been reported to normalize your breathing rate, decrease blood pressure, and relieve tension. Because negative ions are absorbed directly into the bloodstream, they may help to combat harmful free radicals in your body. Studies show that high level of negative ions can be as effective at treating seasonal affective disorder as commonly prescribed antidepressants. Improved energy levels and focus. Research at the University of California showed negative ions normalized serotonin levels in the brain, potentially improved a person's positive outlook and mood. A better sleep. A French study found using negative ions could help you sleep better. This is once again due to their positive effects in normalizing serotonin products in the brain. We know that from our sleep system. Reduces instances of headaches and sicknesses. Reduce instances of reported sickness, headaches by 78%. Negative ion generators are also routinely used in hospitals in Europe for the beneficial impact of patients and healing. Elevated mental concentration and performance. Testing has regularly shown that subjects exposed to high levels of negative ions perform better in mentally charged tasks than those breathing normally positive, dense air. So these are some of the effects of them, and it just gives you an overview of what negative ions does and how we can use them. I'm just trying to get back to my screen here, how we can use them every day. Now, Gary mentioned a lot of products that have the negative ions in them. And one of the ones that we typically talk about quite a bit is our air purifier, our Kenko air unit. And a lot of people have been asking about that. If you've been on the Nikken site, there was some information that just came out, and I'm sure they'll reiterate it on the kickoff call, is that our air units are coming back. They will come back as of the end of September, but they will only be here on a temporary basis. And there's a reason for that, because we were negotiating with the company. They're made in Korea. And to get a unit with the quality that we have in ours, with the ultra filter instead of the HEPA filter and everything else that we put in it, then we have we have demands on the manufacturer, therefore the price keeps increasing. But more importantly is that the manufacturers sell thousands and thousands of units to the large manufacturers like Home Depot and Lowe's, etc., of their air cleaner. And when we ordered ours, I think it was said that we ordered 500 of them. So, and when the 500 are gone, then it will come off of our availability. But that doesn't mean we'll be completely without air, because air is an important part of our whole program. So we're looking for some type of an air unit with an ion generator and to replace the unit that we currently have. All of the filters will be available for many years to come, because that's just what Nikken does, and it is required by law. So just to let you know, the air unit will be on for a limited time. It's still going to be cost effective, but it will not be continued after the units are depleted. So that's the latest on our air units. Does anybody have any questions, or anybody just unmute yourself and ask the questions and comment on what we've talked about and take it from there. I will stop the recording right now.